I want to talk about the flaws within the post-secondary education system. Let me preface the following. I have absolutely no problem or no disregard for anyone who is pursuing a post-secondary education right now, whether it be college, university, private institution, whatever the case may be. If that is where your heart truly lies, then please, by all means, go for it, and I hope you go to the furthest extent of it. I want to also preface by saying that there are certain career fields that require you to have a post-secondary education. For example, if you are aiming for a career in the medical field, please believe you need a university degree and higher for that. You need post-grad, grad school, all that stuff. Because God forbid I have open heart surgery. I do not want Nick Riviera performing that. I want Dr. Hibbert. So anyways, with all that being thrown out there, let me get right to it. When it comes to post-secondary studies, we are taught from a young age that we are to pursue it so that we get the career of our choice coming out of school. And I've noticed, through my own personal endeavors and through other personal endeavors who are within my age group, for the most part, it takes us years to finally get to where we need to get to in our career field. Let's just talk about the 80s, for example. You graduated with whether it be a college or university degree, and then within weeks you're getting within your field. But nowadays, for us millennials, basically, that isn't the case. We usually have to wait at least a year until we finally find something in our field. And before we're able to do that, we have to do a little something called paying our dues. So this is basically when we graduate from college or university, and then when we try to apply for a position, that position requires us to have experience. But what experience can we truly get if we've never been in the field before? Is that where the internships come in? Now, I'm not knocking internships. Internships are fine, it's a way to get your foot in the door and what have you. But under our beliefs of what we've been taught, those internships should actually lead to a position within that sector of our field, basically. So if that is not at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, then what is the point of doing these internships, basically? What is the point of having to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars within tuition just so that we can be trapped in debt for however long until we get to where we want to be? And even when we do get to where we want to be, pretty much the starting line is where we begin paying the debt once we get into those fields. And I feel like that is a huge disservice rather to all the people, kind of within this millennial age, basically, who are working their butts off, day in and day out, studying all long hours of the night, just so there can be a brick wall waiting for them once they get their diploma. Then what? How are we supposed to gain that experience, basically, if there are no jobs being available at that point in time? And that's another thing right there. There's no available jobs. There's no one that's absolutely hiring. And a lot of people say it's because of the baby boomer generation, and they're still holding on to those careers for dear life. Now, they may have the reasons. Maybe they don't have enough for pension. Maybe that's why they're holding on to it, whatever the case may be. I'm not trying to blame the baby boomers for keeping their jobs, but at the same time, something needs to be done. Something needs to be done so that there should be more careers open. And if that's the case, then maybe this trickles down to the economy, and we should look at the economy and the current state of the economy and why they're not holding up to their end of the bargain, so to speak, which then leads to more of a federal situation, basically. So we have to answer to our government in order to find out what's happening with our economy and why there aren't enough jobs being provided for people who are coming out of university and college especially. Now, I'm in here in Canada, so I don't know how it is for the rest of the world. I know America is kind of going through a similar situation as well. Overseas, I can't really predict what's happening over there, and if they're going through the same type of turmoil that at least the Western world is going through. There's too many people who I've come across who have more degrees than me, basically, and they're still working as a manager at, let's say, a phone booth or whatever the case may be. And I'm not knocking that at all. You have to do what you have to do to make money to survive, to pay for your rent, to pay for your insurance on your car, whatever the case may be. But we shouldn't have to be in a situation where we're just waiting and struggling to find our path within our career for years on end, because that is the reality of the situation. It's even come to a point where some people are dropping out of school because they feel that it's a dead end in terms of not being able to land a job elsewhere in finances. It's even come to a point where, we were taught, again, at an early age that, once we get our degrees and everything, then basically they're going to come running to us, them being the employers. That's far from the case. That's not even the case anymore. We have to run towards them. In fact, it's not about knocking on doors and what have you. It's about networking nowadays. Not necessarily about what you know, but more so about who you know, basically. It's come to that point. No longer are we in the era where we have to work harder. We're more now in the era of we have to work smarter. We have to be more strategic about whom we build relationships with so that they can possibly provide us an opening in the future. That is what it has come down to. Now, I am a huge proponent of working hard and everything, but you have to be just as strategic, especially in this day and age. And in this day and age, you have to adapt or else you will perish. So you have to learn the tricks of the game, basically. You either play the game or watch the game play you. That is how today's structure in terms of post-secondary adventures are now structured, basically. And it's kind of sad that we've gotten to this point, because for us coming up who are in our early 20s, mid-20s, late 20s, and so on and so forth, what do we now tell our children if we do decide to have kids in the future? Do we tell them, hey, don't go to school? Or do we tell them, hey, go to school, but you're going to incur this type of situation when it happens? A lot of political expert scientists and a lot of economists are saying how once the baby boomer generation retires, at a large rate, then there are going to be more jobs open in the future. But nobody wants to wait another 20 years until that generation retires and decides to call it quits. No, we want the money right now. We want to make a living. We want to build credit and equity. We want to build a foundation for the future generation. We want to build wealth. That's what we want to do right now. Why should we wait another 10, 20 years? That's not fair to us. We busted our backs and we paid our dues just as much as the previous generation to get where we're at. So the time for waiting has ended. I say this to anyone, and pretty similar to what I said at the beginning of the show. If you decide to pursue post-secondary education and it's what you want to do and you have a passion for it, then please, by all means, go for it. And if you decide to drop out of your post-secondary education for whatever reason and you have some sort of a plan going forward, then please go for it. Because the worst thing you can do is to not follow your heart and to not follow your instincts. Because by not doing that, you're going to leave a very big gaping hole in your heart, basically. And you're going to wonder to yourself, what if I took that risk? What if I ventured down that path despite whatever turmoil that would have came my way with the decision that I made? It's always going to be a question of what if, or I should have done this, basically. So if you have a feeling deep down inside your heart that post-secondary education is not for you and you want to pursue something else and you have a rough game plan as to what you want to do in the aftermath, then I would say highly explore what's basically in your feeling right now, because for all you know, that could be the gateway to your future, basically. That could set you up for life financially, spiritually, whatever the case may be. Because the last thing you want to do is to be in a career that you have absolutely no love and passion for. The whole idea of the pursuit of happiness is that you want to wake up excited for your day, excited to go into work in an environment where it's a labor of love, basically. You don't want to wake up at 7 a.m. and say, crap, I got to go to this crappy job again and answer to this stupid boss. No, you want to wake up and say, man, I can't wait to go to work. In this current generation, we were taught at a young age, once again, that, you got to work your way in to try and get your foot in the door, basically. That analogy, or sentiment rather, almost doesn't exist in today's generation. It's not enough to get your foot in the door, but it's more about creating those doors, which is why in the next 10 years, you're probably going to see a lot of entrepreneurs from the millennial generation, especially with the rise of the internet. I'm not saying that post-secondary studies isn't important anymore, but at the same time, we have a wealth of resources to kind of rely upon if post-secondary education isn't what we're relying upon for growth of knowledge and wealth of mind, basically. You have Wikipedia. That is your own library that fits into the palm of your hand, basically. So people have that as far as higher learning is concerned, because the last thing you want to do is be trapped in a lecture room with a professor who just gets paid to show up and leave and no one succeeds. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. So if the pursuit of education, or the pursuit of knowledge rather, is what you're looking for, then you don't have to rely on post-secondary education for that. You really don't have to. If it's just, the knowledge of self that you're looking for, then why bury yourself knee deep in debt that you're going to be trying to pay off in the next 20 years or so, when all you have right in front of you is the internet, basically. I don't want to come off as ignorant or disrespectful to anyone who's pursuing those post-secondary education for the pursuit of knowledge. I mean, if you want to do that, then great. If you have a game plan ahead of that, then even better. But all I'm trying to say is that education is not the end-all be-all. It's important, but as far as guaranteeing you a spot in your field right after you're out, it's not going to happen. Not in today's generation, I would say. And that's a shame too, because you would think that once you have that diploma or that degree, you are entitled to a position in your field. But that is not the reality that we are living in today. And I think that is what's probably the greatest shame that comes with, post-secondary studies and the flaws of it. But that's just my take on it. What do you guys think? Hit me up on Twitter at DM_cool or cool_radio and let me know your thoughts at hand.